Hey everyone, I'm so sorry that I'm late. My sincerest apologies. I've had a lot of technical issues here. I'm really, really sorry. I have all of you. I saw that you guys have been asking about me, and some people are staying up late right now. So again, my sincerest apologies. Can everyone hear me all right? I'd love to hear from all of you in the comments if you can hear me okay. How you doing? How's it going? Awesome, awesome. No problem. Thank you, Lorena. I appreciate it. Awesome. Hi, Adri. What's going on? Saharla, what's going on? Why don't you all tell me where you're from? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Also, just start. You know what I'm going to be doing? I was going to have a little bit of a presentation. Really, this is all about, for many of you, you know that this week I've launched Attract the One Academy. It's my 10-week course. It's literally like everything that I know about dating and relationships and love, everything I've been teaching for the past 8 years to my high-end clients, and of course behind the closed doors here is all one course in a 10-week course. So I wanted to have this as just really an opportunity to answer your questions about love, about men, about sex, about dating, about relationships, about life, about socializing, and you know, I'm going to skip the first part of this since I'm 15 minutes late and just start answering any questions. So why don't we just start? And by the way, the best types of questions to ask me are pretty specific questions, like generic questions about how to attract a guy. I can certainly talk about those, and I will answer that question since that was one of the first questions here. We got people from Hungary, Austria, someone from Quebec, Tammy said, hey baby, right back to you. So yeah, I'd love to hear all of your questions. And Alicia said, you made my life better. I'm glad that I was there for you. That's fantastic. So Lachelle asks, how do you know if it's real love or he's taking advantage of you? Ultimately, one big concept that I talk about in Attract the One Academy and also in the online training that I have down there below is all about this concept of who the one really is. Like what is the definition of what you'd consider to be the one? And there are thousands of articles, videos, products, books written about this one very topic and scientific studies trying to get to the heart of this. But I personally like to simplify it a little bit. And I truly believe that the one that you spend your life with is just simply the best friend who you are also massively attracted to. And the cool thing is that doesn't mean that there's only one person out there who can fit that role, right? We've all had best friends in our life. And that's the reason why I like this definition, because relate to in some way, shape, or form. And I think the best way to really think about it when you are with a guy and unsure about whether or not he loves you or whether or not it's going very well is to really just ask yourself the simple question is he being a best friend? Treating you with respect? Is he communicating well to you the way that you're communicating to him? And if you're not communicating to him like a best friend, then that's something that you want to look at as well. Are you able to just enjoy your time together, quite frankly? Do you like him as well as love him? Because I believe that attraction and the love chemicals in our brain can do a lot of wacky things. I mean, we have norepinephrine and dopamine, all these chemicals that are rushing through our brain when we fall in love. And in many ways, love is as addictive as cocaine or heroin. Happening can be very, very easy to overlook a lot of the signs that clearly he's not being a very good friend to you. He's not being a very good, person that you'd want to spend, a good partner, someone you'd want to spend the rest of your life with. So it's best to just really ask yourself that one question about whether or not he's truly being a friend to you. So people still here, Israel. A question from Gilcat. What to do after dating for just 6 months? He wants to get married. He seems wonderful. Should I be worried? From the UK. So really think that you should be worried about that scenario unless it's something that he's making an absolute, right? I've seen many relationships in the past, even my parents, for example, they were talking about marriage pretty early on, but they didn't get married very early on. And what you want to make sure you're doing is waiting enough time for kind of those love chemicals to wear off so that you have an opportunity to actually get to know the real person. Because during those first even 6 months to even 8 months of being in a relationship, because it's so new and there's so much chemistry between the two of you, it can really hide the reality of the person that you are with. And I think that what really happens in relationships is that you date for anywhere from 6 to even 9 months, and things are going really, really well. But once those chemicals kind of wear off, then you go back to just really normal life and you become friends. And you get to a point between 9 months to really a year and a half where you think, like this person, is this the type of person I really want to spend the most time, the rest of my life with? And that's why I really don't believe that you want to be getting married no earlier than a year, but really even waiting 2 years. I do believe in living together before you get married, getting to know someone on a very real level before you get married. Of course, if you have religious reasons why you can't do that, well, that's up to you. I'm not very religious myself, so I do believe in really waiting to get married, living together. And quite frankly, you can get all the perks of being married without actually diving in with this lifelong commitment of being together. Even beyond that, my mother's a divorce lawyer, so she'll always say this as well, which is, you're not really committing to life with someone until you have a child with them. So once you have a child with someone, then they are certainly going to be in your life forever. So you really want to make sure you're spending that long amount of time with that person, really getting to know them on a very real level before making these decisions that can impact the rest of your life. That's where logic comes into the whole dating process. And if you let just all of your emotion, if you let your heart just drive every single part of this and not also bring your brain along with you, it can be so easy to get yourself into a lot of trouble. So I hope that answers your question. Let me scroll down. We're getting a lot of questions here. I love it. Okay, so we have another question from Erica. What happens when he asks for space, comes back, says he wants you in his life, does not want to lose you, still calls every day, but is still being a little distant than he was? It's also an LDR. So it's a long distance relationship. Long distance relationships can be challenging because sometimes it feels like there's distance in the relationship when in reality, it's just the physical distance that is separating the two of you. But Erica, it's time to just have a conversation with him about your boundaries and what it means to feel close in a relationship. So you're feeling distant, and what I think is always best in scenarios like this, when you have a feeling but you're not really sure of how to express it, is actually just write it down. I mean, if you have a journal of any sort, in Attract the One Academy, we have like a whole journaling area as well, to really think through your emotions as much as possible. Because many times, once you put it on paper and you start to feel, well, I'm feeling very distant, and then you start typing that out, well, I feel very distant because he's only texting me once a night. I'm feeling very distant because we've only FaceTimed once a week. I'm feeling very distant because he hasn't told me he loves me in a while. Once you start getting these down on paper, then you can dive a little bit deeper into those and what is really important for you to have a healthy relationship. Maybe it means that you want to have that verbal acknowledgement of love, and that will make you feel closer. And you can kind of hone in on that need and have that open dialogue with him, right? You can't go into all of those things. You need to choose what's most important to you to really feel close with that particular person. And it can be challenging, especially with long distance relationships when it comes to finding love. I will say this with long-term relationships as well, in long distance relationships, is you want to make sure that there is some plan in the near, or hopefully at least semi-near future, for you to be living in the same place. And if there's absolutely no plan whatsoever and you're going to be leaving, I think you were in the UK, but I'm going to use United States because I know it better here. If he's never going to leave Chicago and you are never, ever, ever going to leave Los Angeles, then to work. I mean, it's just the compatibility isn't there. You could have love, you could have chemistry, you could have all these amazing things working in your favor together, but if there is no long-term future there, then you're both just completely wasting your time. And hopefully you can have open dialogue with him about that, if that's the case. Excuse me, just taking my sip. So quick one, two is 10 years older than me. Can it still work out? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's tough for me to know because certainly there are many relationships that have worked out that have a 10-year gap. It really comes down to, does your emotional maturity match? And on what level is he in emotional maturity, and what level are you in emotional maturity? I think this is why it would be very difficult, let's say, if you were 19 years old and he were 29 years old, because a 29-year-old versus a 19-year-old, I think, have generally very different emotional maturity levels. If you're 19, you're probably in college or still in that age of like going out and having a good time or whatever, hanging out with boys. But a 29-year-old is probably a lot more serious about his life and trying to get it together. So I think generally, I should say, obviously, there are 19-year-olds who are super mature and want something more. But let's say you're 39 and he's 49, then absolutely, there's no reason why your maturity level can't be on the same level. And that's only really going to be something you can determine as the relationship kind of progresses. But that also brings up just a final point, which is getting an idea of what it is that he wants from a relationship. Because many times a 49-year-old guy might be past the age of wanting to have children, wanting to have anything than just a lifelong partner. Whereas you at a 39-year-old age might want to have kids and might want to, have the white picket fence and all those things. So these are the things that you want to ask yourself, even if you're dating someone your own age, but definitely when you're dating someone with that big of an age gap. Sorry, I'm kind of going random with the questions here. So how long, an easy one, how long should a person wait to say, I love you? There's no answer to this one. I remember with Jessica and I, Jessica, I'm going to talk about when we love you. You okay with that? She approves. She was like, I knew I loved her from like the second week I knew her, probably. Who knows if that was like the, like I said, the love chemicals going, but certainly for us, I think it was 4 or 5 months, 4.5 months before that period. And she was like going nuts. She's like, I can't believe he hasn't told me that. So I was just waiting because I just wanted to make sure that it was real versus like kind of diving in. So ultimately it comes down to the man's value system and his previous history when it comes to that word. But it doesn't mean that you may not necessarily feel it. I think what's more important is having exclusivity in the relationship, because I think I work with and certainly women that have been in the Attract the One Academy, they questions, but they don't even have the most basic component of a relationship, which is that you're not seeing other people, that monogamy and that acknowledgement of monogamy. One thing you'd never want to do when you're seeing a guy, especially in the 21st century, is assume you're monogamous, unless it's clearly stated that you're not seeing other people, he's not seeing other people. Then it's every right on his side to be going out and seeing other people. You never want to assume that. So make sure that those types of things are kind of taken care of. And if you struggle with that, it's been 2 or 3 months of seeing him and you haven't even had that conversation, you can kind of ask him and just say, look, I mean, should I be seeing other guys? I want to get a feel for kind of where your head's at with this relationship. And by asking him if you should go ahead and see other people, you're putting him in a scenario to say, yes, you can go see other people, or no, you should not see other people. And that means it's exclusive. And by the way, if he says, yes, you should go see other people, that is your cue to tell him, well, look, I'm at a point in my life where I'm looking for a relationship. So clearly we're on different pages here. And that can bring up the dialogue. And if from that point forward, he says, look, I'm not in this for a relationship, I'm in this for hot, passionate sex, then, that's clearly a time where it's like, and you move forward from there, as painful as it is. So hope that was helpful for you. Sorry, getting lots of questions here. Sorry, I'm trying to go through all these questions here. Adam, my question is, how long should I wait to see if my partner wants kids? He says that he doesn't want more children, but also that he may change his mind when I told him this was a deal breaker for me. Wicked sugarcane. When it comes to children, I think that is a very tricky conversation to be had. And coming from a guy who does not have children, I will give you my best possible response to this without having an enormous amount of, I can't relate to that feeling of having your own children and knowing what that's like. So I'm not there yet. But I should say that if he signs that he doesn't want to have children, and this is something that you need to have in your life, I mean, look, the reality is you need to make that decision, as hard as that's going to be, and bring that logic to the relationship. And for him to say, well, I just need to wait and see, I need a little bit more time, it really comes down to how long you guys have been together from my perspective. If it's only been, let's say, 4 months together, then sure, maybe you could feel that out for another couple months, because it's still very soon for him even to decide whether or not. But let's see, for 2 years, and he's still playing the game of, well, I might want to have more kids, but not really sure, then I would take that as actually quite manipulative behavior, because he's not being straightforward. Clearly, he doesn't want to have children if he's made this clear to you for that long. And it's something that you really need to think long and hard before you continue to invest all of your time and energy into this guy, especially if you really want to have children. So I can understand that. So I'm going to take a few more questions here. Let's see. I need a few more questions here. We got a lot more. I'm just trying to go through all these. So another question is, I've been hooking up with a guy since February. He won't commit or take me on a date. Still hurt over an ex and seems scared to let anyone in. Says he wants to keep to himself. Help. Well, I mean, Lenita, I think that at the end of the day, you have to take there's two things, right? When people are communicating their needs to you, they communicate 2 ways. One is verbally, and 2 is through actions. The fact that he's telling you that he still isn't over his ex and he's not really sure what he wants, and then he's reinforcing that with action, which is he's not taking on any dates, he's maybe only just sleeping with you, and that's all, I think really says everything that you need to know at this point. And many times it's just a matter of giving him that space in his life right now to shit, and give him that time and that space. And if he does pull that together, then great, maybe it can work out with the 2 of you. But if it's right now, it sounds like he's only giving you just that little bit, which is that hooking up or that sexual need. And if you're at a point where you're like, look, this isn't good for my emotional health, I'm not feeling good about myself, I'm not feeling good about this relationship, I wouldn't cling on to this hope that he's going to miraculously make this decision that he wants to be with you. It sounds like he's still hung up on his ex. People do get back together with their exes, and it sounds like a huge risk to keep investing your time and energy into just sleeping with him casually, hoping that he comes around. So I can't tell you hey, don't do it. That's a decision you have to make for yourself. Decisions that people have to make all the time in the 21st century. It's tough. Dating is no longer just very cut and dry. It's not what it once was. Back in the day when it was courtship, and clearly if a man and woman are really talking to each other, they usually wouldn't be sleeping together too much back in the day. Then generally it means it's a relationship. Nowadays, relationships are very fluid, and that you just need to be aware of when you're getting out there. What's that, honey? I'm doing fine. We're getting ready. We're meeting up with a few friends in about 10 minutes here, so I'm going to answer a few questions. Really pretty, honey. Always, guys should always be telling his how much he loves her. Jessica, I love you very much, my love. All right. So another question is, I fell in love with, this is from Marville. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Best friends who I already know him since I was 10. I already told him last year, but he said that he sees me like his sister, but I can't forget him. Should I still try? If he's telling you that, look, when I used to coach men on how to meet women, I started Sexy Confidence, and the ultimate telltale sign that it's over with a woman, romantically or sexually, is if she tells you that you remind her of her brother or you're like a brother. It's like one of the most clear signs that is not going to turn into anything more than a friendship. And it's clearly he's not going to be the one for you. It's not going to happen if he's telling you these types of things. He's telling you the friendship's there, but he's telling you that the other component, the romantic component, just isn't there. So I know that you have these feelings for him right now, and you're hoping that it may change. But really, the best thing that you can do is you're friend zoned. And the way to get out of a friend zone is to create a massive amount of space between the two of you. Give it about 2 or 3 months and really work on yourself as much as possible. Change something about yourself that's pretty fundamental. Maybe you take up a new hobby or take on a new interest or pursue a dream that you always do. Change your haircut a little bit. Maybe work on your sense of style a little bit. Maybe hit the gym, go work out and get the things together that kind of differentiate you from where you are now to where you will be. For 2 or 3 months, then you can kind of reach out again and see if things could change there. And who knows, he could see you in a different light. But the last thing you want to do is keep doing what you're doing and keep trying to pursue him when he's clearly told you right now he sees you as a sister. And I'm sorry, that's the cold, harsh truth, but it's true. And all the women listen to this, if you've ever told a guy that he's just like your brother, that's like the most clear sign in the world that never sleeping with you ever. All right. So, quick one. Adri says he won't commit, but doesn't want me dating others. Why? His cake, and he wants to eat his cake. Geez, what's that saying, hon? I'm so what? He wants to have his cake and eat it too. Jeez, thank God for Jessica here. He wants both, right? He wants to be able to have you as a girlfriend and not have you be with other men, but he also wants to be with other women. And that's not okay anymore. And this is kind of a common theme nowadays. Like I said, relationships are more fluid and they're not as defined. And it can be very difficult. I have a feeling this guy, is probably a little bit younger, but he might not be. It's really up to you to set those boundaries and say, look, is that I can't see other people. So what are you talking about, buddy? And if he's really strong on this, then you can't give into that boundary. Don't give into that, because the moment you do, then he's going to, you remove yourself from being a high value woman and you put yourself in a low value position, because clearly you're willing to compromise on your values and your needs to be with this guy who just wants to have you there while he can go out and sleep with other women. Okay? And that's really not by the way, I should say, deal breaker, just so that a guy would suggest that, right? Like, that to me is like such a douchey statement to be like, oh, I really don't want to commit. I don't want you to be my girlfriend, but like, you can't go out and see other guys. Like, I say that, I would give him a good slap in the face and just like put him back in his place, because I'm saying I would, because I'm a guy. But it's just not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So I don't like this guy already. I don't get good vibes from him. You're welcome, Adri. How to tell the guy at work I like him verbally without making it awkward? Oh, geez, the work scenario is a very very tricky subject. It has to be very, very subtle. And I would not suggest just going straight up to someone at work who you like and just telling them how you feel. First off, you want to make sure that there's no authority roles in the workplace, because that creates a whole new level of complexity with interwork relationships. Like if he's your boss, you're his boss. You want to think, right? You always want to be preparing for the future, which is most likely it's not going to work out, right? Think about it that way. Most relationships in your life, only one, maybe two, or maybe three relationships, hopefully only one relationship is really going to last for like a long time in your life. And I'm saying like over 3 to 5 years. So if you think of it that way, chances are it's not going to work out with this guy. You might sleep together a couple times and that's it. Someone might get hurt. You might decide you don't like him. And what you want to be thinking about is, can this end at all well if it doesn't end well, right? Will it affect my work situation? And that comes down to how much you enjoy your job. If it's just like you're a server somewhere and you don't really care if you lose that job, then sure, whatever, go for it. You can go be a server somewhere else. But if you're a professional, an executive somewhere, and you've worked really hard to get to that point, you have to remember, again, chances are this relationship's probably not going to go anywhere. Like you kind of have to go into it with tentative optimism. Another thing that I talk a lot about in Attract the One Academy, don't assume that it's going to be this like magical, Disney fairy tale where you all like walk into the sunset together and, have babies and everything works out great. So most relationships sadly don't work out that way. So be strategic, be smart. And if you don't have any potential out, if it doesn't work out, then seriously, don't pursue it. A few more questions. Sorry, guys. I'm just reading through a bunch of these. Okay, so one of the questions from Sean, she's asked this quite a few times, so I'll make this my last one, which is, do men like alpha females? In my experience, there is always, in any relationship with people, there's generally a yin and a yang. That basically means is that there's generally a more dominant person and generally a more beta person. Now, it doesn't mean that always there's like this enormous gap, like a super dominant person and a super beta person. Many times it's actually a closer gap. But generally in a relationship, in the relationships that I've seen that are healthiest, there is usually someone who is more alpha and someone who's a little bit more beta. Now, with that said, experience has been with alpha females is that they tend to attract a lot of beta men. Now, for some women, that's perfectly acceptable, right? And that's just their kind of role in a relationship is they take control, they make the decisions, they kind of lead the direction of the relationship. And that works for some women. An alpha male or more dominant male is an attraction trigger. I mean, that's something that kind of triggers that instinctual level of attraction for a man. And this goes back to like evolutionary biology, because way before we ever had YouTube Live or anything like this, when we were just hunter-gatherers 50, 60,000 years ago, it was more so a male's job to go out and hunt and provide for the tribe, while the females stayed home, would gather berries and take care of the children. And both roles very, very important, but that's how it went. So attraction trigger was being with a man who was a little bit more dominant, who was kind of leading his tribe, because what that meant is more resources for the family. Not too quickly, but that goes back to like having an evolutionary reason why most women are attracted to more alpha males. So that obviously doesn't apply to 21st century anymore, because women are truly equal to men, right? We're all, obviously, let's take out the fair pay stuff and all that, but like generally, we are all doing pretty okay in society. In many ways, outperforming men, which is amazing. So with that said, what does that really mean? Alpha female, if she wants to attract an alpha male, has to learn how to transition from that kind of alpha female mindset when it comes to work to transitioning to a more kind of like beta position when it comes to dating. And that means taking a step back, letting the man lead, letting him be a little bit more dominant while you sit back. And by the way, this doesn't mean that you are lower value than him. Quite the contrary. Actually, you are higher value because you're judging him the whole way. And if he's making mistakes, then you're going to be deciding whether or not he's right for you, because you are the prize. He is trying to win over you, the prize. And that's really kind of like the solution to all this. And that's a lot. That's like a huge component of Attract the One Academy. I talk about sexy confidence and what that really means and how to create this symbiotic relationship with a very masculine man. So with that said, I do have to run. I'm so sorry for being late again. Thank you all so much for being here. I have links down there. One to the webinar. It's a replay that you can watch for Attract the One Academy. It's free, totally free. But for others who want to just jump ahead, jump right in the 10-week course, like I said, it's every week for 10 weeks. You're going to get a new module, kind of giving you the information you need to go ahead and attract the one. We have a ton of great bonuses. We have amazing stuff. And the link there is the second link right there below if you want access to that. So I'm going to keep doing these, assuming that you all enjoy. But if not, I look forward to seeing you in Attract the One Academy. We do have a limited number of registrations. So if this is something you're interested in, you're going to want to click on that link right now just to at least get the information. If not, just get registered right now before we close it down. So thank you again. And I will speak to all of you sexy ladies very soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.